Good evening, everybody. Cold evening here in Pittsburgh. Well, this is why we've got the visual ability to see which way the market is going. We can figure out when it's going up. We can figure out when it's going down. And then we can figure out we don't know which way it's going. So that becomes the trading platform that if you don't know which way the market's going, anything that you're buying long should have very compelling reasons to be going long, and anything that you're short should still have very compelling reasons to be short, which means in a market like this, you probably don't want to be overly long or overly short. So the Dow still has not been able to get up through the T-line. With a little bit of visual reality, that even though when we gapped down and sold off and were that far away from the T-line, that we trying to think what I'm saying here. We still didn't have a reversal signal. We knew that it was a reversal, but not a reversal signal. That's not a hammer signal. It just shows you that they did reverse, but because it's not a reversal signal, that means you have to be a little bit more diligent as far as analyzing what's happening when you get to the first resistance level. In this case, the Dow not doing a reversal signal, still having a little bit of trouble getting up through the T-line. On the other hand, where we could see a signal in the NASDAQ, with a piercing signal, that was a little bit more compelling strength, showing that they are getting through the T-line. But would still be, let's see, a little bit on guard on the basis that if they start selling off tomorrow, maybe they're still having trouble getting up through the moving average or the T-line on the indexes. A little bit more compelling also over here on the S&P 500. Now, the commodity you want to watch at this point is the crude oil. You can see they're still in an uptrend. Could the piercing be considered a belt hold? Yes. Yes, and we'll get to, yes, a piercing signal could be a belt hold. Now, a piercing signal is where they open it below any of the previous day's trading and close it more than halfway up the previous candle. But a belt hold could be a piercing signal, it could be a bullish engulfing signal, or it could just be a piercing signal where it doesn't create a reversal signal, but the fact that it gapped way out of the trading range and came back up into the trading range made it a signal. It's just more conclusive when it does create a piercing signal or a bullish engulfing signal. Kind of pointing out the crude oil prices, because even though they're still heading up, you can see where they're starting to run into trouble with shooting star type signals. It's getting a little bit indecisive up here. What were we doing? Yeah, so that would be considered, it doesn't matter what your definition is. That's definitely a piercing signal, and it's got the elements of a belt hold. Now here is a belt hold. The reason we recommended Ruth Chris Steakhouse is look how they came way out of the trading range and back into the trading range. In this case, it would be considered a bullish engulfing signal or a left-right combo. But this is the information that should be registering the most important. That when they gapped way down here, the sellers were definitely present. But when the bulls started stepping in and buying up all the sellers, a belt hold has significance in the sense that it's kind of wiped out all the sellers. The bulls have sopped up all that selling pressure. Now, any type of buying after that has less selling in the way, allowing for that next price move to work. I'm going to go down through some right now that were good setups. Now, there are plenty of these type of setups. Dang, I hate doing that. Look at our bullish engulfing, our bullish doji sandwich, and more importantly, look at our big pattern. Fry pan bottom, J-hook pattern. So where do you think the likely target's going to be? Up here, wave 1, wave 3, approximately the same, bringing you up to the 200. Now, will it get there? We don't know. But the probabilities based upon this setup is that's likely where it's going to go. So every time we're putting on a position, we want to be able to analyze the fact that the probabilities are greatly in our favor, that we're heading in the right direction at the right time. Now, buying this on a positive open today, even for a day trader, was very relevant because we knew if we had a big candle off the 50 and a doji, the doji rule told us if it opened positive, it was going to trade positive. And knowing what a doji sandwich illustrates, we knew that if it opened positive, the magnitude of that candle right there was probably going to be about the same as that right there. So even if you're a day trader, that becomes a very high probability trade setup. I'm going to go to this one real quick. This is HYG. Again, there's your bullish engulfing belt hold type signal at the bottom. So it's telling you the confidence has come back in a little bit because they're buying the high yield corporate bonds. All right, so the nice thing about the chat room again is somebody pointed out today that MULN was moving big. Wouldn't have any idea what MULN was. Except when you see this, this is where you can do your reverse engineering research analysis or research analysis reverse engineering. When you see this big move and you go back and see what it's all about, here's a company that's in the same business as QuantumScape, where they're trying to develop a solid state lithium battery, and so they announced today they were getting a little bit closer. Now, is this a story stock? It definitely is. More than likely that company doesn't have any revenue. It's still a research firm. But that kind of illustrates that we're not buying things that have good fundamentals, that prices do not move based upon fundamentals. Prices move based upon the perception of fundamentals. So there's your breakout type move. Now, could this go back down? Yes, but remember, there's something happened today that created a big price move that changed the investor sentiment perspective of this move. Now, you were around last year, remember, OCGN did the same type of thing. Kind of broke out, figured out what was causing it. It was their vaccines that were getting approved over in, what was it? India, and that stock went from, we bought it at 73 cents and then eventually went to $17 in a matter of a couple months. CG, yes, thank you. John, yes, that's what we're looking for on this one. Now, remember, this is one element of how to utilize candlestick analysis. All it's telling us is there's a brand new perspective in this company. Now, this stock, oh man, this stock was trading at $15 a share back in November. Now it's hit bottom and supposedly starting back up. So it's not that we expect where it could go. It's the fact that now there's a change of investor sentiment that gives us the prospects that it could start moving again, because now everybody's taking notice of what they're doing and what their announcement created as far as new interest in the stock price. So, John, this fits into the category of a story stock. Did 2 green trades today. Okay, good, Chris. So yes. So what we wouldn't want to see it do tomorrow is open down here, and then just hang around. That means that one shot pony there was. So if it opens lower, we'd wait for it to pass. That'd be one way to do it. Yes. But if it opened lower and then you start seeing buying, that means the buyers are still there. If it opens positive, you got to kind of conclude that the interest is still there and it could go higher. Now, again, does that mean it's going to? Definitely not. But the probabilities now, based upon this signal right here, which was kind of a gap up, doji gap up, breaking the downtrend. That's the whole point of analyzing what's going on in investor sentiment based upon candlestick charts, is that we know there's now new interest in this stock and it has the prospects of going higher. So does that mean it's going to deter somebody like QuantumScape? Probably not. It's probably still a question of, is there interest in these stocks? Who's going to come out with our product finished first? And if one comes out before the other, is that going to detract them from taking over a big portion, not a big portion, but a percentage of the market that's going to greatly enhance the value of that stock? So just because one person's coming out with a product or a product that could greatly improve the automobile sector, doesn't mean a second one or a third one aren't also going to be able to supply that industry. So I'm saying all this because we don't know what the price movement will do based upon one company versus another. We can just analyze what each one is doing to see whether there's still interest in each one. Yep, I think smart money moved into Mullen today. It could be, Chris. Yes. Yeah. I don't even know what the volume was. I'll go look. Let's see, volume. That's not what I wanted. Volume. Traded 65 million shares today, where it normally trades way down here. And so anyways, that's not to say that Mullen is that, I don't even know the name of it. Oh, net. That's not to say that this is going to go higher. It just has all the elements of attracting attention, that it's got the much higher prospects now of going higher, and also with the prospects of being a story stock, it could go to here, it could go to here. We don't know. Anyway, something that if you want to put some of your play money in, at least you got something that has big upside potential. A lot of the other ones, we bought fuel cell today. There's your bullish engulfing, there's your doji sandwich, gap up, J-hook pattern. Where do you think the first likely target's going to be? EVH. We'd recommended this on Friday, but it didn't execute. So here's a very simple trading strategy. You got a strong signal, you got consolidation. Where would the likely place tell you that the consolidation is over? Right there. Because if they come back up through that level, what would that tell you about the consolidation? It's over. It's still going higher based upon the original signal. Now Blink, guess they reported earnings after hours. Let me go see what those, how that affected. That didn't affect it, so that, again, there's your big bearish or bullish engulfing belt hold type signal, J-hook, bobble breakout, all the things. Changed their name to Mullen Automotive. All right, was that recent or is that in progress? Walter, wrong way to look at it. You've got closed out, fine and dandy. But that doesn't mean you run away from the stock or disregard it. I stopped out here, I'm buying back here. So I missed out on this, but at least when I stopped out here, I didn't know whether they were doing this. At least when I'm buying back here, I've got a pretty good indication based upon the strength of that signal that we're going in this direction. So there's nothing wrong with getting stopped out when it's time to be out of a trade, and nothing wrong with getting back in when it's time to be back into that trade. Now I say this because I always thought, man, they stopped me out. Oh, I'm not going to get back in this. They're not going to trick me and get me back in and then take my profits. No, now I look at it and say, all right, what's investor sentiment doing? They're telling us they're moving higher. Oh, WB, I don't know. Let me take a quick look here. Blink, yes, is reporting on the 10th. So it doesn't really matter what it's, for some reason they're buying the stock or and Walter, I wasn't pointing you out. I was mentioning this because I used to say, oh man, I stopped out. They're not going to get me back in, because I always felt that they were against me. Don't know who they were, but the market was much smarter than me, and they weren't going to get me back in and trick me. Well, now I've got the capabilities of analyzing what is they doing. I can see it was time to be out and it's time to be back in. Because if this goes to, what do we say, 7 or 7.5, and I make a big percentage return, I'm not going to remember this trade. I'm going to remember this trade. Yeah, I'll skip ahead. It looks like we're starting to get a lot of buying coming into the electric vehicles. There's Lie. NEO didn't really get started yet, but did better than I thought. There's some that aren't doing well. This one, Nikola, just can't get started. Blink, Checkpoint. There was another one, but I can't remember what it was. All right. Okay. So we did Blink. Yeah, I'd still be a buyer of this one on positive trading tomorrow. Now, whenever you see these little double doji, this isn't a double doji, this is just doji doji. However, whenever you see that, I can't remember which one it was. Was it FLCN? No, that was your doji sandwich. Oh, I can't remember. There was one where it did 2 dojis and then gapped up today. Let's see. Yes, there's another chart that if you're long, you stay long. If you're thinking of going long, I'd probably at this point wait for it to get up through the 50. I'm sorry, the 200. Same thing with charge point. You could be buying. Just watch to see what it does at the 50. Plug also is a compelling chart in the sense it kind of did a doji sandwich, but they gapped up. Where'd they gap up? They gapped up through this resistance level, and they gapped up through the 50. That tells me there's a lot of force there, probably heading toward the 200-day moving average. BLDE. The T-line crunch is still working. Another one, I wouldn't be afraid to be buying on positive trading. You can see you've got the makeup of a J-hook pattern, bobble breakout. I can't get back below the T-line and the 50. It means got the prospects now of going to the top of that channel. We kind of saw that the gambling stocks were working well. This is also what I'd consider a belt hold bullish engulfing signal. Remember, that took out a lot of sellers. You got buyers, sellers, buyers, sellers, buyers, sellers, buyers, sellers. Bam, they took out all the sellers. Now there's not as many sellers in the way. So anytime you see a belt hold, start watching to see if they continue the uptrend. Now, if they open it here and trade it down here, no, the belt hold didn't work yet. You wait for the residue selling to come out of the system. So anytime you see a belt hold signal, it's pretty much telling you whatever pattern you're recognizing, like a fry pan bottom, this kind of gives you added credibility that buying, selling, buying, selling, buying, selling, boom, they took out all the sellers. You're more than likely going to be heading up into a much stronger uptrend. GOGL. Not looking great, except this is the advantage of this system, the TC2000. You can see what happened a little bit after hours. They took it back up again, so it wasn't off. I think it was off like 38 cents during the day, but now it's only off 20 cents. And what's that still imply? As long as you stay above the T-line, you can stay long on this one. On the short side, we still have the bearish kicker signal of KPTI. But if you're holding any shorts, that's still not showing any strength at all. you can stay short on this one, and pretty much covered most of the short positions except the ones that didn't show any strength, like this one. Your bearish signal has not shown any strength since the sell signal, so still looks like wave 1, wave 2, wave 3 in progress. Or, yeah, I would know a golden cross if I fell over it. Oh, this, yeah. But say if you waited for the golden cross, where was the buy signal on this one? It was down here. So we have a different trading strategy. We don't pay attention to any of these unless they're acting as support and resistance. Doesn't matter that they're crossing. We're watching to see what the actual price is telling us. All right, some of the biggies. Tesla, doing that kind of doji sandwich scoop type pattern. Now, would I go long Tesla? If I like Tesla, yeah, I'd probably be buying it on positive trading with the expectation that it's going up to at least the 50. Netflix. Nothing dynamic there yet, other than the short situation ended when you did the bullish engulfing. May not go long just yet, but it would definitely be out of the short positions. NVIDIA. There's your piercing signal. Also, piercing signal, almost a bullish engulfing, but that doesn't matter. Whether it's a bullish engulfing or a piercing signal, the fact that they did it right here at a level that everybody else is watching just gives you a little bit of extra credence that there's that the bulls have taken control. Apple. Nothing wildly exciting here yet. Now notice kind of the splitting hairs of this one. This one would be a belt hold signal, but not quite a piercing signal. Looks like it's just under the halfway point. So you can consider this a belt hold with prospects of going higher, but it just came out of the range of being a candlestick reversal signal that you could recognize, meaning a piercing signal. So that means you have to be a little bit more attentive as far as what happens at the first resistance levels. And Amazon, now that's a piercing signal. So that's got a little bit more credibility. So where's that? Where's the likely target that we can see? Is right here. All right. Yes, called fractal. Is upstairs a vertical spread? Is upstairs a vertical spread? Is that upstart? Is that what you're asking? You could do a spread on this one. Now remember, anytime you're looking at something to do a spread, you've got to have a couple factors that fit into the being able to get into that spread. First of all, you want to make sure there's a lot of open interests. There are some stocks that don't have a lot of volume on their options. And even if they've got a couple strike prices that do have a lot of volume, if you're trying to buy, what would it be? The 160s, I think I put this out as a 160, 165 spread because the volume was pretty decent on those strike prices. Now what you'll find is, especially on weekly charts, you'll have a 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65. The odd numbers, or the numbers that aren't an increment of 5, like a 160 or 165, usually don't have the same amount of volume as the round numbers. That makes it a little bit more difficult to put a spread on. Even if one side has big volume and the other doesn't, remember what the mechanics of a spread are. They've got to put the buy and sell on it at the same time. Well, if there's very little volume on one side, you might be sitting for hours, if forever, to have the volume on one side or the trades on one side occur at the same time the trades are occurring on the other strike price. I've learned that the hard way. I put on some spreads that had very little volume, and I couldn't get back out of them until we went to expiration. And even at expiration, they weren't giving me the full price, which would have been, if it was a $5 increment, $5. At expiration, they were still trading at $3.80. I just had to instruct, I think I was using Thinkorswim, to say exercise both sides of these. So I'm buying the stock at one price, selling the stock at another price to get that $5 spread. Hold on to your individual ones until I get through all these. Got a bunch of them. Oh, it was. There, I've got it written down. Buying the March 160, the March 11s, meaning 2 weeks out. The 160, selling the 165 for $2. Whoops. DQ, Doji Sandwich, breakout. Good chart. LQDA, Doji Sandwich, kind of a double bottom. You could still be buying this one. IONQ, starting of a Doji Sandwich, and now this is again where we go back to observe the obvious. J-hook pattern, that's one criteria. 2, a big bullish engulfing signal, closing above the T-line. More evidence that the bulls are taking control. Kind of a start of a Doji Sandwich. 3 and 4, look where they opened it when they gapped down, right smack dab on the 200 and brought it back up through the 50. So when you look at that in a glance, you don't have to say 1, 2, 3, 4. You should be able to see automatically or immediately. Bounce right off the 200, doing a J-hook pattern right up through the 50 and the T-line. I wouldn't be afraid to be buying this one on positive trading. Where do you think the next target's going to be? I don't know. Wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. LQDA, too close to resistance? Well, it could be. But what would make you think that this could probably go through the resistance level? Remember, we're not buying and selling the resistance. We're buying and selling the patterns. Again, you got a bullish engulfing at the 50, a Doji Sandwich. That took you right up to the resistance. Could it fizzle there? What else do we have that would tell us that you have probably enough strength to go through that level? First of all, we know a Doji Sandwich usually implies more upside. 2, look at where your stochastics are. Just coming out of the oversold area, got a lot of room to the upside. So that tells me, yeah, I wouldn't be afraid to be buying this on positive trading because of all those factors. More upside for a Doji Sandwich, stochastics coming up, breaking out through the resistance level. What could we assume at that point? Wave 1, kind of a sideways wave 2, going into wave 3. So don't, remember, this is your top criteria. What is the signal telling you right now? And everything else is something that you analyze to say, all right, what happens at this level? Now, obviously, if it opened here and closed down here, that would not be breaking out through that level. Oh, man. hold on. I've got one that would illustrate that point, right? We recommended BX. And look what this chart was kind of illustrating. And if it opened positive, what was it doing? A belt hold, gap up. They opened positive and traded positive. What was it telling us about that little downtrend? It wasn't there anymore, but you can see what happened. They opened it lower and they couldn't get back up through that level. What did that tell us about the strength of that trade? It just wasn't there. We just didn't pay attention to it today. Okay, let me see what else we got here. SDIG. Oh, who drew all these lines? So what's our analysis here? Kind of a J-hook pattern, bobble breakout, right about this level. If this one opens positive tomorrow, what can we assume? Wave 1 and wave 3 is going to take you up into this range. If it opens and can't get through this level, we don't pay attention to it. We want to see it open positive, confirming the bobble breakout. That's why waiting to see what the confirmation is telling you instead of trying to get in too early. There again is our belt hold bullish engulfing J-hook pattern. Where's our next likely target? Up here on positive trading. UEC, there's your bullish engulfing, bobble breakout, followed by a doji sandwich. What's the implication? There's more upside. This is a strong chart in the sense that bullish engulfing. They opened it lower, and then the bulls step back in. Then they open it lower, step back in. So this is kind of a three white soldiers, bobble breakout, next target. So I'm pointing this out just because if we can add a bunch of things together as far as a pattern, the T-line, the signal, in this case three white soldiers, we're just adding as much positive probabilities to a trade as possible. So there was a ton of charts that looked like this. Bullish engulfing, gap up through the T-line, telling you the T-line's not acting as resistance anymore. Edit, bullish engulfing signal, bullish confirmation, telling us the T-line's not acting as resistance. So these are all good charts. And there is probably dozens and dozens of these charts. So now what do we want to get as or analyze as far as which ones to get into? That's where we want to use our knowledge about the top ranked signals and patterns. We want to find the things that were gapping up or forming a strong signal like a doji sandwich, things that would put you a little bit better probabilities that you're going to have a good reversal signal. Did I do this one? Yeah, it's kind of a scoop type pattern. This is what you want to look for. I have no idea why this stock did this. But if I saw this, I would say, oh, let's go back and see why it did this. So NRSN, what makes this a strong chart? Doji gap up. Another gap up. Edit, up 10% after hours, all right. I just have that on here because it works reasonably well. And I say reasonably well enough to keep it on my charts. If it never did anything, yeah, I'd take it off. It wasn't helping. But it affects, or at least it gives you something to watch for that has a good probability that it could act as a support and resistance level. Now, some people say, well, why don't you use the 20? You can put anything on your chart that you want to that enhances your ability to see what's going on in the price movement. And if you want to put 15 things on here, fine. I try to keep it as simple as possible because this is my most important criteria, is the evidence that there's candlestick reversal signals and then a reason that they're confirming. So this tells me something brand new has happened in this. So what's our rare process? We go back and find out what the news was that created that move. That was pretty much the same thing here. What created that big move and going from 4 million to 5 million shares a day to 65 million? Well, we go back and find out they announced they're getting closer to a battery. Is that something that might add more credibility or more strength to this chart? Definitely. And that was the same analysis way back when, if I can find it. No, back here. But on this day, it broke out. And I just by accident found it when I was demonstrating how you find something new coming into a price of a stock. And so it wasn't that we'd say, oh, this is being bought, yippee, let's buy it. You know, just go back and say, what was the news that created that move that eventually took you to, what was it, $17, $18, $20 a share? So that's the whole point of finding something like this, because it gives you a buy signal. Now we're alerted to go and find out what was creating that. Shares are trading higher on above average volume despite not seeing any company-specific news to justify the price action. Daryl, that's relevant also. If you see a big price move and there's no news that you could identify, you got to be a lot more, I want to say, skeptical. You want to make sure that you can anticipate something might be happening, but if it opened lower the next day, it tells you, yeah, that was just a one-shot deal. Yeah, sometimes a short squeeze probably on this one, because you probably couldn't short it when it was below 5. Yeah, so that's always in the background, Chuck, that electric vehicles, because the whole current administration pushes to make crude oil prices so high that you want to be much more interested in electric vehicles. So that whole scenario is that as long as an administration is trying to push an agenda, they're always going to benefit, or they're going to probably be looked at more favorably as far as bullish or bearish sentiment. Big bullish. You go back and find out what this was all about. All right, thank you, Cav. So this is the exact reason why having a chat room gives you a little bit more flexibility to that you're going to see somebody, or not say, you're going to have somebody find something that's moving that you might not have been able to scan for the night before, or you didn't find it the night before. So you've always got people out there that are paying attention to what might be happening in a price move. And then if you see somebody says, oh, check out XYZ, and you look at XYZ and it's moving pretty strong, now that gives you the opportunity to go back, study the news to see why it's moving, and give you a lot more opportunity to say, well, this looks like a good bullish signal, candlestick signal-wise. Yeah, I could be buying this one with much greater confidence that there might be something new happening. So this is kind of to illustrate why a kicker signal is telling you there's something new happening. Continued, and then today, I don't know what happened. It almost looks like a buyout situation. But we might not have known what was going on here. All we knew is somebody was buying it with great enthusiasm. OSCR. This is kind of your typical little chart. Piercing signal, belt hold signals, bobble breakouts. There's dozens of these. Thank you. Is that earnings on Reddit? All right. So now you can look at it and say, all right, I'm going to keep an eye on this one. If they continue to buy here, that means that's a nice breakout. And where would you think your next target is going to be? I went up here to fill this gap. Why? Because that's what everybody else is watching to see if it's going to come up and fill that gap. Did I do this one? Yes. Kind of your bobble breakout J-hook pattern on COSK. OPAD. Another good chart coming up through the 50. Did I do Reggie? I thought I had Reggie somewhere in here. Oh, no, that was it. Yes. I have never asked is when we trade and make profit, whose money is that we receive? The short, no. Darren, you're buying a piece of paper, which is called a stock, and somebody is selling it to you. So if you tomorrow decide to buy 1,000 shares of MULN and you pay $1.74 for it, somebody already owned that piece of paper or that stock, and they're selling it to you for $1.74. So somebody's buying that piece of paper, somebody else is selling that piece of paper, or those stocks. So that's where you're getting, or you're buying it. So now, if it goes up to $3.50 and you decide to sell it, you're selling your 1,000 shares, and there's somebody out there that's paying $3.50 for it. So they're now the owner of that stock, and you take the difference, and that's your profit. Reggie being acquired by CVX. Okay, thank you. CrowdStrike. There's another one that's doing kind of a doji sandwich bobble breakout after a big, huge bullish engulfing signal. Yeah, Jim's describing it too. If you buy a house for $100,000, that means somebody has sold you that house for $100,000. Now, if that house over the next 5 years goes up to $140,000 and you get ready to sell it, that means somebody's ready to buy it from you for $140,000 because you're the owner of it. So the stock is just the same thing. AVAV. There's your bullish engulfing doji sandwich breakout of this level. Where's your next likely target? Right here. Where's your next target? The 200. There it is. Oh, that's the one I was looking for earlier. Bullish harami, doji, bullish confirmation, gap up. Anytime you start seeing them gap up, especially coming out of the oversold area, and in this case, look where they did it, right off the 50-day moving average. This is what you should get your, not only your eye accustomed to, but your thinking process. That if this is a bullish harami, we know what a bullish harami tells us. It tells us the selling has stopped. And it tells us, where did the selling stop? Right smack dab on a support level that everybody is watching. That just gives us a little bit more clear indication that that's where they've stopped selling. Now get ready to start buying. It's only worth something if there is a buyer, of course. Okay. Ballard Power, doji sandwich, bullish engulfing, breakout through this level. Next target. Twillo. Again, I'm pointing this out because there's dozens and dozens and dozens of these signals. Bullish engulfing, now I'll close above the T-line. Now what we want to do is take all those dozens and dozens of bullish signals and figure out which ones are the most strongest of those signals. Are they setting up a pattern, like a scoop pattern, or a doji sandwich? Something that tells us there's still better prospects of more upside. And DWAC, another belt hold signal that told us more than likely they took out some sellers and this steady uptrend remains in progress. Now I'm pointing this one out because if you looked at this one right here, nothing. Looked at it right here, you're starting to get a slow curve. What do we expect coming out of a slow curve? A big price move. On the short side, PPG, I think it's Pittsburgh plate glass, if I'm not mistaken. You can see how you have a bearish kicker signal with a dumpling top. That usually implies there's a lot more downside. Whose handwriting? That's not what I want. There's your bearish kicker signal. This is why I always kind of advocate that learn a signal or learn a few signals and learn them very well. What's the expectation of a bearish kicker signal? If you see it trading lower, it's probably going to continue to trade lower. Now, does that work every time? We were going to short EBS today based upon that bearish kicker signal, that if it opened lower and started trading lower, in this case it opened lower and immediately started trading up. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see some of these small renewable energy type companies being bought by a larger oil company just so they get out of the target of being a big bad oil company, that they're an energy company. VIR, slow rollover. This one has much better prospects that if they open this one lower, that dumpling top could have a strong force to the downside. Kind of the same scenario on AOUT. Notice your little kicker type signal, dumpling top. Where do you think your next likely target would be? Well, if you drew a line, that could be your next target. So is that worthwhile? Yeah, that looks like about a 30% downside potential. GVA, there's your bearish flutter kicker signal after the dumpling top. Another strong implication that they're trying to get out of this one with great enthusiasm. That was the same thing we were looking for in VICR. Oops. So this one is still not off the watch list. Look at your bearish kicker signal. They tried to take it up. If they open this one lower, what do we think is happening? Wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. Wave 3 might be coming down to this channel area. So you might see that one. Which one is that one? Oh, that one we recommended going short today. It didn't execute. If this opens lower tomorrow, that one's going to be a good one to go short. Federal Signal. Something's wrong there. Oh, they must have boosted that going into the close. Not as attractive now as a short. And Navi, if they open this one lower, what do you got? Here's kind of your bearish flutter kicker signal, still telling you there's force to the downside. Okay, so right now it's showing that the pre-market futures, or the YM for the Dow, is trading up 18 points. Not really showing much of anything right now, which is, yeah, you don't pay attention to what the pre-market futures are doing this time of night. Only just more relevant 10 minutes before the market opens. All right, I know we've got some new folks in here. Everybody should mark their calendars that we are going to be doing the full 2-day training on candlestick analysis on March 26th and 27th. That's your bread and butter basic training. We start with the doji, go right through the 12 major signals. Then we go through all the patterns. Then we go through stop losses, entry and exit strategies, when to take profits, how to scan for the best trades, the top rank signals and patterns. And the whole process is stuff you've seen bits and pieces of as we go through these sessions. But now you're starting from step 1, and we're walking through the whole thing so that the chronological order makes much more sense as far as getting your mental perspective of how to use candlesticks in order and get a full understanding of why it works as effectively as they do. So, I don't know whether you call that the boot camp training. I don't know what we call it. I just call it the basic training. A very large option orders, is there any way to use that data? Sandman, you can use anything you want to, but remember, because you see a large option, somebody buying $1 million or 1 million shares worth of calls, doesn't mean that's bullish. All that means is, for all we know, they just shorted 1 million shares of stock, and now as a hedge, they're buying 1 million's worth of calls for protection. So Yeah, you can't always use the volume of options as a guide. So the first criteria I have on anything that I do is the signals themselves. A lot of people say, oh, they're coming out with earnings. Somebody mentioned on something today that if somebody's coming out with earnings in the next few days and they've got a 35% short position. That doesn't mean a hill of beans if the price isn't moving in the direction that you want it to be moving. Now, those are all things that could add to your reason to be going long or going short a position based upon the candlestick signals. But that is your first criteria, is what are the signals telling you. Okay. The NASDAQ is the most compelling as far as confirming the signal. The Dow, not necessarily a very strong chart unless they can get up through the T-line. So I always am very hesitant to do anything aggressive until they're above the T-line, because remember our statistical evaluation. Got to consider that the downtrend is still in progress if you don't see a candlestick buy signal or close above the T-line. All right, are there any general questions on candlesticks? Oh, somebody was asking. I put that in the what did I do with it? I had a couple people asking today about the flashcards. I think this is it. Our flashcard sets are very popular. Now, not because I had anything to do with that. When I was going to school, I had a hard time doing any studying, but yeah, horseradish camp. But I think it was even Rick Sadler, who runs Hit and Run Candlesticks now. He was one of my first training students, and we were sitting doing our training in Houston in front of the screen for 2 days, and we're looking at a signal, and all of a sudden he pulls up a flashcard and puts it there on the screen. He said, yeah, that's that signal. And I'm thinking, oh, Steve Nissan has come out with a product again way ahead of me. And I said, well, where'd you get that? He goes, oh, I made it from your signals. And I said, do people use flashcards? And he said, oh, yeah, I love flashcards. Well, obviously I didn't love flashcards because I never used them. So anyways, there's the link. Or did the link get in all right? Anyways, you might, if those got 2 sets of them, all the signals, and then another one with all the patterns, both candlestick patterns and Western patterns. So just something you can keep on your desk, and if you want to get clarification of what signal you're looking at, you just rip through real quick through your through the flashcards. Chad, you'd like to see the bottom of a scoop have a reversal signal, but it doesn't necessarily have to. If you see the scoop pattern. Now, if you have a scoop pattern setting up without a signal, you probably want to be a little bit more attentive at what it does once it gets back to the handle, because without a signal, you might have just a bounce, and without a signal, you might not have enough force to get through the handle. So usually like to see a reversal signal at the bottom of the scoop. And more than likely, you're not scanning for the scoop. You're scanning for the reversal signals, and then when you find that reversal signal at the bottom of a pullback, then you instantly recognize, oh, there's a flat handle. This looks like a scoop pattern. Yeah, that's what I was supposed to do with flashcards when I was knee-high to a grasshopper, but I never did. Yes. Joe, oh, forgot to mention that to Pat. We will be doing a full day option training here within the next few weeks. I'll have to figure out. More than likely, now that I mention it, it'll probably be after the full training. So even if you have taken the full training before, remember, if you pay for it once, you can come back and take it as a refresher as often as you want for free. But it's usually after that that you take that information, and now we take that information and apply it to which option strategies are the best to be applied to those signals or patterns. Does Dow have a bobble failure hazard? No, there's no bobble here. A bobble is usually at a level that everybody else is watching. Nobody's watching the T-line because they don't have it on their charts. Cheryl, it'll be March 26th and 27th. And I like doing those because even though a lot of people have watched, they become familiar with the different signals and patterns. They've learned it kind of on a piecemeal basis. And what really kind of solidifies their view as far as understanding the candlestick philosophy is when it's all put into a chronological order, and now it really makes sense. And so then, after you've taken that, if you took it 3 years ago, just let Abe know, and you can retake it. Now I forgot what I was saying. I shouldn't finish a sentence before I start another one. Now I can't even remember what I was talking about. So, bah. All right. What's a good reference for applying candlesticks in futures trading? Bob, we talk about futures over in the options room. And there is nothing difficult about analyzing an option chart or a futures chart versus a regular chart. They all look the same. Oh, that's why I was kind of pointing out that even though the crude oil is still in an uptrend, you can start seeing there's a lot of shooting star type signals. So that kind of gets you ready for a reversal. I started shorting lean hogs because there's your bearish engulfing signal in the overbought area. And this is where when you see a trend like this and then a pullback, how far do you think this is going to come back? No earthly idea. Could come back to the 34, the 50, or the 200. Or you put your Fibonacci retracement. Not that we use Fibonacci retracement. We're just putting it on here to see what everybody else is watching to see where it could be pulling back to. So if we do this and it keeps pulling back and does a hammer signal right here, then we know that the 50% Fibonacci retracement is where everybody was stepping in to buy. Hold on, Christy, your individual ones until we get to the, let me get off of this chart. Well, Shazam. No, stop. All right, so it'll be important to see how they open the markets tomorrow. As you can see, it's pretty much flat right now as far as the futures, which I'm guessing is still going to be figuring out what's going to happen over in Ukraine. All right, any other questions on candlesticks? If not, Jim, let's go ahead and do the double line. And in 4.2 seconds, do the next double line. AFRM has the chart that looks like a lot of charts. Bullish engulfing, and then a close back up above the T-line. So on something like this, if you're buying on positive trading, just use the T-line as your stop. LUMN, same scenario. That looks like three white soldiers. So if I was buying on this one or buying this one tomorrow on positive trading, I'd still use the T-line as a stop. IMPP. That for some reason that's not coming up over here, and I don't know why. There's your doji sandwich off the 200. I'd be a buyer if this opens positive tomorrow. AEHR needs to break. I don't know where that now. That's not a. That one you can be buying again. A doji sandwich off the 200. First target should be the 50-day moving average. GPRE. Doji sandwich after your dojis down here. Still could be a buyer. Just watch to see now what happens when it gets to the 200. Bloom. You could buy this one if it opens positive tomorrow, telling you the 50 is not acting as resistance after your J-hook pattern gap up. PDF. That's not coming up. Or, no. Wayfair. Nice belt hold, bullish confirmation. See what it does once it gets to the 50. Air leasing. Air leasing was on my chart. I don't know why I didn't write that one down. Because that's your bearish kicker signal. Now so here's what you kind of analyze. What's everybody else watching? Whoops, not that. Kind of your trend channel. So that could be your next likely target. Ow. Very. What was that? A green candle? Yeah, that one has to open positive. That's really not a very good looking chart, JB. Indices. Stay long as it stays above the T line. AUPH. That if you were short, you stay short. I probably wouldn't be playing with it at all at this point. MULN. Oops. MULN. Stop at today's open or halfway. I would probably use the halfway point of today's candle. If it came back down through there, it's not doing this force. It'd sell it off. We did IONQ. You could buy this one on positive trading. SI. You could buy this one on a bobble breakout positive trading. KAMN. That's a big reversal. That's your stick sandwich. That one you could buy on positive trading tomorrow. Again, the stick sandwich tells you they've wiped out a lot of sellers. And TDMX, another one you can buy because of the bullish engulfing. Again, with all of these, you have a safety stop. I'd have a safety stop at today's open. Apps, same scenario. You can buy on strength, watch to see what happens at the 50, have your safety stop at the T-line. SE, I would suspect they're coming up to the 50. Notice how they gapped it up. Gap it up. When they start gapping it up, that's pretty good indication they're trying to come in with good enthusiasm. Lockheed, a little slow curve, you stay long. However, well, you stay long. You're not in the overbought area, but you're moving away from the T-line. If I was long, I'd have a safety stop at today's halfway point of that candle. Goog, you could stay long on this one. It's a kind of a double bottom, so you want to see this get up through, obviously, the 50, or especially through the 200. There's your left-right combo off of Freeport. You stay long on this. If I was long, I'd have a safety stop at that close. If they came back down through there, you're coming back into the trading range. NOC, nice breakout. Another one. I'd probably put a safety stop at the halfway point of this candle. ENPH, same thing. Watch to see what happens at the 200. AMD, watch to see what happens at the 50. You've got the piercing signal right there at the 200. Texas Instruments, nothing wildly exciting on this one. You could be buying it. You've still got a lot of downtrend to get out from underneath. Gold. Let's just go to gold. Gold still in a slow uptrend, but look at your long-legged doji. That tells you there's a little bit of trouble maybe in River City. Same thing over here on silver. That is your indication that there might be a change coming in investor sentiment. KOS, you get ready to buy this one, especially if it comes up through this level. Deer. Speaking of which, I had 3 of them outside my window tonight. Not quite a reversal signal, so you want to be a little bit more diligent to see what's happening here at the moving averages. You want to make sure they can get through that level. The reason is because that's not a reversal signal. Had it come up there, that would have been a reversal signal, and I wouldn't consider it really a belt hold either. AMGN, there's your best friend signal. That one I wouldn't be afraid to buy on positive trading, anticipating they could be coming back up to the top of the channel based upon that best friend signal. HUT, that's more of a piercing signal. Belt hold. Close above the T-line. I would suspect the 50 being the next target. KAVL, nice J-hook pattern. TTCF, nothing great on that chart. I'd probably be someplace else. I know everybody was playing that today. There's your fry pan bottom breakout. And it didn't seem to stop at the 200. IRNT. That's not a pretty chart. Now, it didn't close below the T-line, which is your basic rule of a fry pan bottom. So if you're long on this one, it has to open positive and trade positive. If it opens lower, close it out. They're coming back to the 50. Hack, belt hold, bullish engulfing. You could still buy this one on positive trading. It's not going to be a big percentage mover, but it's probably heading to the 200. Net. You could buy this one expecting it now to go to the 200. Microsoft. Same thing, probably coming up to the 50. So if you like Microsoft, it looks like it's got a little double bottom. Plug, not a best friend. That's more of a doji sandwich gap up. Still a good chart. A lot of force in it. And as I mentioned, we had bought fuel cell. Now that's got a little bit more doji sandwich best friend gap up. That one has a little bit more force to it. EPAM. There's your dumpling top slow curve. They didn't like that one today. Down 174 points. I just want to be in a put someday with that type of move. Then we can all go to the Bahamas and just bask in the sun like we always do. Nothing here. Still needs to get above the T-line. That's on ASAN. That's a decent chart. Make sure it gets through, or you can buy that on positive trading or stay long on positive trading, then just don't let it close back below the 50. Square continued its gap up. Now see if they can get through the 200. Apple didn't do too much of anything today. It's still not anything that I'd go after until they can get up through the T-line. All right, probably going to see a short on GVA. Probably going to reiterate a short on BICR because of that kicker signal. And I thought I would have. Oh. SDIG. You might see a recommendation on that. I'll have to investigate more. Okay, with that, we'll see everybody bright and early tomorrow morning in the chat rooms. We'll see you then.